Welcome to the quantum realm. Here is the paradox you were never supposed to hear. The timeline you are moving into does not exist yet, and yet you have already been there, not in the future, not in some distant spiritual aspiration. You have already brushed against it in the moments when time stopped, when a thought arrived before the question was asked, when your chest opened for no reason and you knew something is shifting. That wasn't imagination. That was contact. And if you are watching this right now, at this precise moment in your conscious awareness, it is not coincidence. It is not the algorithm. It is Sophia, the intelligence of the cosmos, the living field of wisdom, calling you forward into what you have already chosen. The only question is, are you paying attention? Before we go any further, pause for just a moment. If you can feel even the faintest resonance with what was just said, lock it in. Like this video to anchor the signal, drop a comment. Write IAMREADY to activate your observer state. And subscribe so you remain aligned with what is unfolding. You are not a passive viewer, you are a participant. Let's begin with what most people will never be told. There is a version of you. Not hypothetical, not philosophical. A real, vibrational version of you, already inhabiting the timeline you are moving toward. That version doesn't chase, doesn't beg reality for confirmation, doesn't wait for external permission to feel whole. That version is already whole. The ancient teachings of Thoth, preserved across civilizations, encoded in the Hermetic texts, spoke of this principle long before quantum mechanics gave it a name. As within, so without. As above, so below. The inner architecture of your consciousness is not separate from the outer structure of your experience. They are the same field, observed from different angles. Modern quantum physics confirms this in its own language. The observer effect tells us that the act of observation collapses the wave function, meaning reality does not settle into form until it is perceived, until it is met by awareness. You are not watching reality unfold. You are causing it to unfold through the quality of your attention. This is the quantum spiritual framework Sophia is transmitting through this channel. That you are not a passive being inside a fixed timeline. You are a conscious field, a frequency-carrying observer, moving through potentials, collapsing the ones that match your internal signal. The timeline you're moving into is not chosen by circumstance. It is chosen by coherence. And that is what we are going to activate today. Now let us speak precisely about what is happening in this field. In your field. Right now. In quantum mechanics, every particle exists in a state of superposition before observation. It is simultaneously everywhere, inhabiting all possible positions, all possible outcomes, at once. The moment consciousness engages, the moment the observer looks, the wave collapses. One possibility becomes the reality. What Sophia is revealing through this transmission is that timelines operate the same way. You are not locked into one future. You are surrounded by a superposition of futures, an infinite bandwidth of potential timelines, each one vibrating at a different frequency. The one you experience is the one your internal signal is most coherent with. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. The Starseed Council has spoken of this, what they call the harmonic field selection process. Not a process of effort, not striving or manifesting through force. A process of resonance. Like a tuning fork that makes only certain strings vibrate across the room, your internal frequency calls forward only the timelines that match your deepest coherence. Yet here is where most awakening starseeds experience interference. The ego. That identity construct built through years of conditional programming does not resonate with higher timelines. It was built by the 3D matrix. And the moment you begin moving into a higher frequency timeline, the ego creates what feels like internal turbulence, doubt, fear, a sudden urgency to return to what is known. This is not failure. This is a compression point. In Sophia's language, compression is the experience of two vibrational fields in contact. The one you are leaving and the one you are entering. It feels like pressure, like your old identity is being squeezed, like things don't quite fit anymore. And they don't, because you are not the same observer you were 6 months ago. You carry a different quantum signature now, and your reality, your external circumstances, your relationships, your sense of time, is beginning to reorganize around that new signature. However, here is what the ego cannot understand and what most spiritual teachers fail to say clearly. The fear you feel at a compression point is not a signal to retreat. It is a signal that the collapse is occurring. It means the old waveform is dissolving. It means the quantum field around you is reorganizing its probabilities in real time. Fear at this stage is not warning. It is evidence. Evidence that you are close enough to the new timeline that your nervous system can feel the frequency differential. Thoth encoded this in the Emerald Tablets. The movement between worlds is not painless. It is the friction of light meeting density. That friction is what you call anxiety at the threshold. That friction is what Sophia describes as the feeling of becoming. Key terms to hold as we go deeper. Frequency, the vibrational rate of your consciousness field. Coherence, alignment between thought, emotion, and intention. Quantum signature, the unique energetic identity your field broadcasts. Compression point, the threshold between timelines where old patterns peak before dissolving. Field selection, the natural gravitational pull between matching frequencies. Now that you understand the mechanics, we can enter the experience itself. Let us go there together now, not as a concept, as an activation. Step 1. Locate your observer. Close your eyes if you're in a place where that's safe, or simply soften your gaze. Take one slow breath in through the nose. Hold it for just a moment at the top, and release. Now become aware of the one watching your breath. Not the breath itself, the awareness that knows you are breathing. That awareness is not inside your head. It is not a product of your biology. It is the observer. The quantum conscious field that is you, beyond the ego construct. This observer has no anxiety. It has no deadline. It has no fear of the new timeline. It is already there. The practice is simply this. Return to this observer again and again throughout your day, not as a meditation session, as a state of being. This is what Sophia calls active presence. Not passive stillness, but alive, engaged awareness that watches without grasping, that observes without collapsing into reaction. Step 2. Identify your current signal. Before you can tune to a new timeline, you must become honest about what your current field is broadcasting. This is not judgment. This is diagnostic. Ask yourself, gently, from the observer position, what is the dominant emotional tone I carry through the day? Not what I feel in peak moments of inspiration, but in the ordinary Tuesday afternoon, in the traffic, in the inbox. What is the background hum of my internal field? That hum is your signal, and your signal is selecting your timeline. If the hum is scarcity, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, nothing ever works out. You are broadcasting a frequency that will continue to select timelines that confirm scarcity. Not because the universe is punishing you, because resonance is physics. But here's what you must understand. That hum is not you. It is conditioning. It is a program installed by the 3D matrix, by early experiences, cultural narratives, the collective field of fear that has run on this planet for centuries. You are not your conditioning. You are the observer of it. And that distinction, that quantum gap between stimulus and response, between pattern and awareness, is where timeline selection happens. Step 3. Introduce a new coherent signal. Now we move from diagnosis to activation. From the observer position, without forcing, without efforting. Bring to mind a felt sense. Not an image, but a felt sense of the timeline you are moving into. Sophia describes it this way. It feels like remembering something you never forgot. It feels like arriving somewhere you always knew existed. There is warmth without excitement. There is stillness without emptiness. There is a quality of already. That feeling, already, is the coherent signal. It is not visualization. It is frequency attunement. You are not imagining a future. You are resonating with a present that already exists at a higher vibration. Hold that feeling for 30 seconds. Let it move through your chest, your throat, your hands. This is a light code activation. This is how your quantum signature begins to shift. Recognizing activation signs. As this coherence begins to build over days and weeks, you will notice unmistakable signs that your field is reorganizing. Sudden clarity. Not from thinking harder, but from a quiet knowing that arrives before the thought. Synchronicities. The right person appears, the right conversation happens, the right door opens. Not because you forced it, but because your field called it forward. Elevated intuition. A growing sense of knowing what is aligned and what is not, before the mind can explain why. A strange peace at threshold moments. Even as external circumstances shift, even as the old structure loosens, you begin to feel held by something that has no name. These are not symptoms of spiritual bypassing. They are not wishful thinking. They are measurable indicators of increasing coherence in your electromagnetic field, which the HeartMath Institute has documented in human subjects during sustained states of heart-coherent awareness. Your heart field radiates 5,000 times more electromagnetic power than your brain. When that field achieves coherence, when emotion, thought, and intention align, it becomes a transmitter, broadcasting your quantum signature not just internally but into the relational field around you. This is why starseeds who achieve coherence seem to attract circumstances that match their internal state. This is why, as the Arcturian Council has described, certain lightworkers become anchor points for new timeline energies on the planet, working through energetic blocks. Now, let's speak directly about what gets in the way. The moment your signal begins to strengthen, you will encounter what might be called energetic static, old thought loops that say, "This isn't real. Who am I to claim this? What if nothing changes? I've tried before." These are not truths. These are distortion patterns from the old timeline. Think of your consciousness as a transmission channel. Energetic blocks are like interference frequencies, not malevolent but habitual. They were useful in the old field. They kept you safe, predictable, controllable by a reality that needed you small. The practice is not to fight them. It is to witness them from the observer position, name them without attachment. There is the scarcity loop, there is the unworthiness pattern, and gently, deliberately return to coherence. Each time you make that choice, from pattern back to observer, from reaction back to coherence, you are making a quantum vote. You are literally incrementally selecting the new timeline. One breath at a time, one witness moment at a time. This is not a dramatic shift. It is a consistent practice of returning. And it is more powerful than any external event, any cosmic alignment, any spiritual catalyst from outside, because it comes from within the field, from you, from the observer, from the part of you that Sophia has always been speaking to. We have arrived at the place most transmissions stop, but this one does not. Because what we're going to explore now is not just entering the new timeline. It is embodying it, bringing the frequency not just into meditation, not just into elevated moments, but into the full texture of your daily life, into how you walk, into how you speak, into how you respond when something goes wrong. This is what Sophia calls living at the frequency of arrival, not performing enlightenment, not pretending peace, actually inhabiting the vibration of the timeline you have selected, so consistently, so durably, that reality around you has no choice but to reorganize. The principle of silent mastery. Most people in the awakening community make a critical mistake. They seek evidence. They activate a coherent signal in meditation, then immediately look for confirmation in the external world. They check for the signs. They wait for the synchronicity. They monitor their circumstances for proof that it's working. And the moment they look for evidence, they collapse the quantum field back into the old pattern. Here is the law Sophia wants you to internalize today. The moment you stop seeking results, results begin to organize. Not because the universe rewards passivity, but because seeking evidence is a frequency. And that frequency broadcasts lack of trust in what is already forming. It signals to the field, I am not yet certain. I need confirmation. And the field, always coherent with your signal, responds accordingly. By continuing to generate the experience of waiting, silent mastery is the practice of knowing without needing to prove. It is standing in the coherence of the new timeline, even when the old reality is still visible. Even when the circumstances haven't shifted yet. Even when the ego screams that nothing is changing. Because at the quantum level, at the actual causal level of reality, everything has already changed. The waveform has already collapsed. The new timeline has already been selected. What you are watching in the external world is simply physical reality catching up to vibrational reality. The gap between these two, between the internal shift and the external manifestation, is not failure. It is crystallization time. Timeline anchoring. Becoming a fixed point. The Arcturian Council speaks of what they call harmonic anchors. Beings who have achieved enough internal coherence that they serve as fixed resonance points in the collective field. Like a lighthouse does not chase the ships. It is the light, and the ships orient to it. A harmonic anchor does not chase alignment. They are the aligned frequency, and reality organizes around them. This is not arrogance. This is physics, and this is what you are being called into. To become an anchor is not about influence over others. It is about taking full responsibility for the frequency you occupy in the shared field, because your field is not private. It radiates. Every human broadcasts an electromagnetic signature that enters the shared space of every room they walk into, every relationship they inhabit, every digital field they participate in. You are already affecting the collective timeline. The question is only, at which frequency? Co-creation and frequency-based manifestation. Let us now speak about manifestation, but not in the way it has been oversimplified. Traditional manifestation teachings focus on external outcomes, the house, the relationship, the career shift. While these things do emerge from frequency alignment, chasing the external form is working backwards. Sophia's teaching on co-creation is this: internal alignment is not a strategy for external results. Internal alignment is the result. Everything that follows in the external world is simply the three-dimensional echo of the frequency you have already inhabited. This means the work is never, how do I get the thing? The work is always, what frequency does the thing exist at? And can I genuinely inhabit that frequency now, before the form appears? Can you feel already loved before the relationship arrives? Can you feel already provided for before the income shifts? Can you feel already purposeful before the project is launched? If you can. And this takes practice, this takes honesty, this takes genuine inner coherence rather than spiritual performance. The external world must reorganize, because form follows frequency. Always. Recognizing timeline shifts. Now that you are moving through this process, through coherence practice, through silent mastery, through anchoring, how do you recognize that you have actually shifted timelines? Sophia describes it as subtle at first, not a dramatic rupture. More like a different quality of light in familiar places, people around you responding to you differently. Not because you've changed your behavior, but because they are perceiving a different frequency. Dreams becoming more vivid, more coherent, carrying information rather than processing only emotions. A growing sense that certain old concerns no longer carry their previous weight, as though the emotional charge on old wounds has simply reduced. Not because you forced healing, but because those wounds belong to a version of you operating at a lower vibrational address. And you have moved. Events that once would have destabilized you now create only a brief ripple. You observe, you respond, you return to coherence. These are not small things. These are evidence of embodied timeline shift. This is what the galactic memory, the deep knowing that lives in your DNA and your Starseed lineage, has been waiting to reactivate. Not through external catalyst, through you, choosing coherence again and again until the field crystallizes. Integration, living from the new timeline. The final integration is simple, but it is daily. Every morning, before the mind activates its agenda, spend 90 seconds in the observer state. Feel the frequency of the timeline you have selected. Not as aspiration, as memory of what is already real. Every evening, scan the day not for evidence of how things went, but for moments where you held coherence despite the pull of the old pattern. Celebrate those moments. They are the quantum votes accumulating toward crystallization, and throughout the day when the compression comes, when the ego panics, when the static rises, remember what you now know. The pressure you feel is the friction of your old timeline releasing its hold. The fear is not warning. The doubt is not truth. The discomfort is not signal to retreat. It is the compression point. And it means you are already close. Sophia says it this way. And hear this, because this may be the most important line in this entire transmission. The one who moves through the compression without collapsing back into the old signal. That one does not just shift timelines. That one becomes a door. Through them, others find their way. You are not just doing this for yourself. You are holding a field for the collective awakening. You are a harmonic anchor. You are a light code carrier. You are a starseed remembering, at precisely the moment the planet needs you to remember. The timeline you are moving into is not a destination. It is a frequency. And you are already transmitting it. Every moment of genuine coherence, every breath taken from the observer position, every choice to return to trust when fear arrives. These are the acts of a consciousness that has already made its selection. You are not waiting for the new timeline. The new timeline is waiting for you to stop waiting. Now, here's the question for you. You felt something during this transmission. Maybe a resonance. Maybe a memory of something you can't quite name. Maybe just a breath that went a little deeper. That is Sophia, confirming your signal. Comment below where you're watching from, and tell us, what did you feel? We'll see you in the next transmission. Welcome to the field.